What's up, everybody? This is Devin White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're listening to the LCC Network. Go Bucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioner's Clubhouse on the LCC Network for episode 8 of 2021. And it is Sunday, the last day of February. We are really officially now 2 months into the off season, fantasy off season that is. But before I dive into nuts and bolts of this episode, I'm going to introduce my co-host and co-commissioner Jordan. What's going on, man? How's your Sunday night going? Pretty good. Recording this for the second time. So.
This is take two.
Oh
But we're
man.
here.
Yeah, no, uh I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like I had a little technical issue at my end. I accidentally muted Jordan the whole time, but like I could hear him, but it wasn't recording his voice. But yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, here we are, episode 8 of 2021. And this is going to be interesting because we're pretty much only going to talk about rule changes that we haven't voted on yet, which is only a few. There's only like a handful of them, but they're still pretty important, and I think it's worth noting and worth going over for this week at least. And I don't know about you, Jordan, but I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready. You
All
give
right.
us some information.
Real quick, I'll just briefly go over the results from the other poll. That way, there's more context with all this. But first one that was voted on: should we get rid of divisions? It was voted 65% and 35%. We should keep divisions the same. The next question: should we limit the number of rookie picks that GMs can put in for the rookie draft? And that went in favor of yes, setting a limit. The only thing is, it tied between either setting that limit to 3 or 4. So we're going to have to vote on that um, in this next round. What between 3 or 4?
Yeah,
Uh,
with just those two options.
right, yeah. And then the other one, should player contracts reset after they've been traded? And overwhelmingly, 80% of the people voted in favor of um, having contracts not resetting when they're traded, which I was thank God. I'm so happy that it went that
Yeah,
way.
that was a very smart vote by everyone.
Yeah. Otherwise, draft day would just be ridiculous.
Boring.
Yeah. Next one. The question was: should we replace bowl games with a consolation playoff bracket where 12 teams who participate battle for draft order positioning in a developmental draft, which would only be for the 12 teams who miss the playoffs? That was 75% in favor of replacing bowl games with that consolation playoff bracket. I was a little surprised by that, honestly. So yeah,
Yeah. So the constellation bracket did get voted for?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I voted for it. I'm glad to see other people kind of liked it. I thought it was pretty interesting and kept like lesser teams involved for a longer period of time.
Now, I'll caveat that because I mentioned it in a previous episode. I think a lot of people were confused a little bit about that question because they were thinking, is this like an all in one deal? Is it like, are we replacing, like, basically, are only teams who miss the playoffs going to be allowed to participate this? Or is everyone going to be allowed to participate? And then, like, how does that impact the rookie draft?
Yeah. I voted for it as like missed playoff teams.
Yeah. I mean, I
So
guess,
we may need to do a reinterpretation of that
yeah, that's kind
also.
of what I was wondering. Like, so people are obviously interested in developmental draft, but I think the question should be: should it only be for teams who miss the playoffs or all 24? Now, James made a good point to this. and especially if it's all 24 teams, then we're basically kind of getting rid of the rookie draft in a way, because guys are going to be picked well before they get to the draft. The only guys who will be available are guys probably not worth drafting in most cases. Unless we
Yeah,
set it to the developmental draft only being for like true freshman players in college. I think that's probably the best way of doing it, honestly. Or maybe
yeah.
sophomores.
In my head, in my dream scenario, how it would work out is the team. It would only be teams that didn't make the playoffs to give them more incentive to keep playing, and the only the winner of that would get to choose one of these players yet in the NFL. And I would think just one of those players wouldn't affect the rookie draft. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think if we do it for like maybe let's say sophomores, for instance, it's still kind of hard to gauge whether a guy's gonna be a legit NFL star as a sophomore in college. Like there's guys like sure Trevor Lawrence. Like I feel like people kind of knew well in advance that
Yeah,
Trevor was going to be like one of the top guys in the NFL draft going forward.
yeah.
As long as he stayed
There's tons of
healthy.
guys that have killer sophomore seasons and then don't amount to anything in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you even know going into draft day, like, yeah, I'm not super excited about this guy.
Yeah,
Maybe he like gets into a lot of trouble, and it's like, yeah, dude, that guy's gonna be suspended left and right. Like you just know it. But like Vontez perfect example.
yeah,
Like you knew before he got in the NFL that he was gonna have issues. Like,
yeah. You can kind of see some of them coming.
and then the other question: should we replace the current offseason waiver wire with a free agent acquisition bidding system or FAB system? And 85% of people voted in favor of keeping it as is, not changing that. So we'll keep the offseason free agency. And then next question: should we create an LCC Pro Bowl that would take place during Week 17 of the NFL schedule? And that 60% of people voted to create the Little Critter Pro Bowl. So that's gonna be something new in 2021.
All right.
And then the other one: should we move the deadline to trade draft picks the same week as the deadline trade players? Well, 85% voted to make them the same. So they're both going to be week 8 now of the NFL and LCC regular season. And then next question, last question really that's relevant to us at least: should we increase the value of wide receiver and tight end and defensive lineman, and then basically essentially decrease the value of the other positions to kind of balance it out a little bit to make it where your flex could be receiver slash tight end or maybe a defensive lineman? Well, that one was pretty contested, but it ended up going in favor of keeping it as is by 55%. So very close margin there. Obviously, I think that shows that a significant number of people in the league are ready to create other avenues of flex players instead of it just being defensive back, running back, or DB.
I just want to get a scoring system hammered down
Yeah,
so we can get a few years of data in place to figure things out.
yeah,
But I understand.
yeah. I voted in favor of tweaking it just so, because receivers in our league historically for years, ever since the beginning, have been pretty devalued for the most part compared to running backs and quarterbacks. And I think that's probably true for a lot of leagues, honestly. But in our league, especially because defense is favored so heavily, the issue is just a receiver. You're never going to start a flex receiver in our league unless you just have like 2 of the top 3 guys, and then you would. But that's a pretty
Yeah,
rare circumstance, and that never happens in our league, at
yeah,
least.
I agree.
But that was it for that. So I'm going to move on to the rules that we need to vote on now. And this poll will be up. The first one: when should our keeper deadline be? Should it be in May before the rookie draft and offseason waiver wire, or in August, a week before the regular season draft? Or not regular season draft, the regular draft. And then the next question: And Jordan, feel free to stop me if you have any commentary to add to any of these, by the way.
Okay.
Next question. A majority of the league decided, obviously, to set the number. I already mentioned this. Setting a limit to rookie draft picks. Should it be 3 or 4 picks for each team? And then the next question. A year ago, we decided to allow GMs to use a 4th-year option on players who were drafted in the rookie draft, assuming that they weren't traded away, right? And then, along with this rule, we decided that GMs must not be allowed to cut players who are drafted in the rookie draft. And so, essentially, the question needs to be asked: should there be a limit, basically, to the number of guys that you can get, that you can use a 4th-year option on, essentially? And if so, what should that number be? Kind of close to the. Should there be a limit to how many rookies you can draft? Should there basically be a limit to how many guys you can use that 3rd-year option on? Because I get it. I see it both ways, honestly. I'm kind of on the fence
Should
of
you
how.
be able to keep all of them for the 4 years?
Yeah, because essentially what you're going to have on your hands is it becomes a dynasty league, in all seriousness, to some degree at least, because someone's going to be able to keep up to 4 guys, theoretically speaking, scot-free every season for 4 years.
Yeah.
They won't be able to cut him, but they'll be able to have him for free and then have their keepers on top of that. So,
maybe there could be some future penalty for the 4th-year option, or
yeah, I don't know. Like, a part of me thinks that there should be a limit, just because, again, that's kind of the whole reason why we have a limit to how many rookies we can get now, is because we don't want a situation where we're not getting enough players in the veteran draft, essentially. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to vote on that one, because I'm kind of on the fence myself. Because I'm sure some people are looking at it thinking to themselves, well, I'm taking the risk on the rookie. The limit's 4. I should be able to use a 4th-year option on all 4 guys. And I totally agree with that statement. But at the same time, then I look at it as though we got to get guys into the player pool, right? Are we going to be in the same situation we were in, and for those that don't know, back in 2019, where there wasn't a lot of guys at all in free agency, in the offseason, or in the draft? Like, it was crazy, the guys we were drafting, because so many were already rostered. And that's along the lines of a dynasty league. And I love a dynasty league, don't get me wrong, but I know a lot of people in here prefer a keeper league over a dynasty league. So,
yeah, I'm into dynasty. If you guys have any, I don't know where I'm going to vote yet either, but if anybody has any swaying thoughts or opinions, you can leave it in